Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies, and the regular season, it has wrapped up. It's time to shift into Red October mode. We'll talk about it on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other sports talk work here in Philadelphia. I've been on the air for 5 years over at 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio, talking all Philly sports. I've also been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 3 years, and this is my third season as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating and reviewing wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a nice review if you enjoy it, or comment and stuff like that. And please subscribe to the YouTube as well. That's the number one way to help us out here on Locked On Phillies, and it gets you notifications when new episodes are posted. It's free. It's easy. Hit that subscribe button, and it will help you find episodes easier. It will help me continue to grow the channel. So I appreciate everyone who's done that and everyone who's going to do that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So the Phillies have wrapped up their regular season. They finished with 95 wins on the season, 95-67, the final total record for the Philadelphia Phillies, which is good for second in the National League. They get the first round bye. They will play, who knows at this point, with the Mets and the Braves taking on each other in a doubleheader today to determine playoff seeding, who's going to make it. It's wild for those two teams. It's a good year to be already locked down in the postseason. We'll talk tomorrow about who the Philadelphia Phillies will match up with, the winner of what series, because it's still up in the air as I'm recording this on Monday. But game one of the NLDS is just 5 days away. Saturday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, 5 days away. Not a big math guy. I've told you this a long time. The math that I can tell you is the Phillies won 6-3 yesterday. They went ahead and took care of business, and Aaron Nola went out there and gave you a solid start on a day where most of the people were upset here in the city about the Eagles. But he went 5 innings. He allowed 9 hits, 3 earned, 7 strikeouts. He did give up 1 home run. It was a weird series down there in Washington as you dropped 2 or 3. But I don't know. I'm not really worried about what's going on in Washington. The point is the Phillies didn't really need any of those games. You could have tried to chase down the 1 seed. But when you look at the official standings in Major League Baseball and you see where everybody ended up, especially where the Dodgers ended up record-wise, Dodgers won 98 games. So you're 3 back on them. Also, what's important is you're ahead of every team in the American League. So the Phillies have home field advantage in the World Series if they get there. They have home field advantage against every team not named the Los Angeles Dodgers in any level of the postseason. They've done pretty much all you could expect them to do. Remember this offseason, we get so caught up in what the team was at points this season. They're the best team in baseball. They're so good. Okay, yeah, and I was saying that too, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't believe that, but it doesn't invalidate that the Dodgers built an amazing team, and they have a guy in designated hitter Shohei Ohtani that is putting together one of the greatest baseball seasons anyone alive has ever seen. They're still a really good team. So there's no shame in saying, oh, well, the Dodgers won 3 more games than us. So that's fine. But when you look at what happened for the Philadelphia Phillies in the final game, just some final takeaways from the last game of the regular season. You didn't really have too much going on as far as things to look for. No one hit homers for the Phillies in this one. No one created all that crazy amount of offense. It was just putting together a good, solid performance. Scored 6 runs. Aaron Nola looked good. Bullpen looked all right, even if it's not your typical bullpen arm guys. I mean, you didn't really use a lot of your normal pitching staff in this one. Yesterday, you did a little bit. You had Alvarado, but he threw in the 6th. Tanner Banks threw in the 7th. Matt Strahm threw in the 8th, which was interesting a little bit. Well, he's normally 7th, 8th, but Jose Ruiz got the 9th too. So you threw names that you recognize, but it wasn't your typical setup of the bullpen. It's just these were throwaway games, and you just survive into the postseason healthy, and the Philadelphia Phillies are indeed healthy. So that's a good thing to see. I mean, if you're keeping track of what's going on with the Braves and the Mets, Chris Sale was scratched from a win or go home start this evening with back spasms. It's so hard to be healthy this time of year. And the Phillies, well, unless you believe there's something weird with Ranger Suarez, which I don't know that there is. I don't know that he's hiding an injury or anything like that. But they seem to be as healthy as you could expect them to be. So that's a good thing. Speaking of with the Braves and Mets, we're going to talk about that Chris Sale situation and if Zack Wheeler can steal a Cy Young coming up. We're also going to talk about what to watch for this week, what games you should be keeping an eye on, what teams you should be keeping an eye on. So we're going to discuss that lightly the rest of the way. But one other thing that I want to talk about too with the Phillies as we get ready to, by the way, this whole shifting into Red October mode, credit to whoever made the George Costanza meme. I don't know if you've seen it, but the shift, I think the initial line is shifting into soup mode because he makes a joke in Seinfeld about it getting cold and it becomes soup season. I'm pretty sure that's it. I don't think I'm making that up. But someone made a meme of him saying, I'm shifting into Red October mode, which is wonderful because that's how we're all feeling. The Eagles are on a bye week. Yeah, the only show in town in Philadelphia sports is your Philadelphia Phillies, which it puts pressure on the team. There's already pressure because it's Red October, but it also means Citizens Bank Park going to be packed out Saturday. The city going to be buzzing. You're not going to be able to walk into a bar in the city of Philadelphia within an hour and a half of the game. Places are going to be wall-to-wall packed. It's Saturday. No one has anything to do Sunday. Go ahead and get out there and support your baseball team. I know I don't have to tell you twice that place is going to be electric, but we're going to see a great opportunity for the Phillies to take center stage, even during Eagles season, something that we don't always get to see, even when the team is this good. So that's a great thing for the Philadelphia Phillies as we get ready for Red October. And boy, have they earned it. I mean, what does 95 wins mean for the Philadelphia Phillies? It is the 6th most wins in franchise history. Now, when you consider and compare to the fact that in July and start of August, even with a slight slump beginning, we were having a conversation about, hey, could this team set the win total record for the Philadelphia Phillies franchise? Could they be the best team in franchise history? Well, I mean, maybe they still could be. If they go ahead and win it all and then win the World Series, they're going to be in a position where you could make that argument. But still, I mean, this franchise has been around for how long? It's the longest single name, single city operating professional franchise in North American sports. And this was the 6th best regular season by wins record. Yeah, that's pretty darn good, folks. You just witnessed a really good season in the regular season, one that should not be overlooked. But obviously that all goes out the window when it comes to, well, hey, you fall apart in the NLDS, no one's going to remember this team. Well, or they will in a very bad way. You lose in the NLCS, well, it depends who you lose to, but you're going to be disappointed. And you're going to say, oh, well, whatever. We didn't do any better than last year, even with the wins in the regular season and winning the division. Oh, you lose in the World Series? Man, we just can't get over that final hump. How in the world can we not find a way to finish the job? But if you're the last team standing, and the Phillies, well, they have a pretty good chance to be the last team standing. They have some of the best odds. They have the second most on FanDuel, the second best World Series odds behind only the Los Angeles Dodgers. So with that in mind, Red October, the Philadelphia Phillies are all set and primed and ready to jump right in and go. We'll have a conversation this week, too. This is something for a little bit further into the week when we don't have games to react to. We're going to have a full playoff preview from all the Locked On hosts whose teams are in the postseason. We're going to be recording that sometime this week and getting that out quickly for you. So you'll have plenty of playoff content, but we'll also talk about the handling of the week off, the bye from, well, it's not really a full week, but Sunday to Saturday, not playing a game, how you go through that, what teams have done that has worked, what teams have done that has not worked, and how the Philadelphia Phillies are set to maybe buck that trend of teams in the National League getting the first round by going out quickly in the NLDS. But one more thing I want to say. You don't get this on any other podcast or any other medium, or I'm pretty sure anywhere else in the country when it comes to the Philadelphia Phillies. You can correct me if I am wrong. Yeah, because I don't know everybody's record. I don't know everybody who predicts games. I don't know everybody who puts out a record prediction at the start of the year that does media stuff like this. That does a podcast, is on the radio, does TV, any of that. But I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit. I've got the victory shirt on for one final time in the regular season. It will be worn following postseason victories, of course. Come on, because it's magical, guys. I'm not going to not wear it for the postseason. It's Red October. But in 2022, I predicted the Philadelphia Phillies win total on the nose. In 2023, I predicted one game off of the Phillies' exact win total. And this year, my prediction for wins was 97. The Philadelphia Phillies won 95 games. Folks, this is not like in the NFL where if you're a good team, you just predict 10 or 11 wins. If you're an average team, they might go like close to 500. Well, you can't go 500 anymore in the NFL because it's 17 games. Or if you're a bad team, like it's not just out of 17, it's out of 162. And in the past 3 seasons, I've missed by a total of 3 games. So if you think that you're getting more accurate Phillies content anywhere, more accurate predictions on what's going to happen in a season anywhere, higher level evaluation of this team, I'm willing to argue based on my track record there that you're not. So a little pat on my back and a little bit of this is why you should be subscribed to Locked On Phillies. This is why you should be listening along all season. This is why now that the regular season is over and we're shifting into Red October mode, I love saying that, zone in on Locked On Phillies. We're going to have a lot of great content. I'm going to tell you what you need to know about this team, and I appreciate everyone who's followed along all season long. Another guy I appreciate is Zack Wheeler. And with Chris Sale getting scratched today with back spasms, does Zack Wheeler have an outside chance at finding his way to the National League Cy Young Award? Well, I don't know if it's likely, but I'll tell you how likely it possibly is as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, though, let's talk about our friends over at FanDuel because you've got a great opportunity right now. You got baseball ongoing. Football's rolling. You got basketball and hockey starting soon. So when you get a hunch in the middle of any of these games with big sports games going on left and right every day, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets with FanDuel. You got to go ahead and check them out. I mean, there's so many opportunities to be winning money right now. The NFL is kind of weird. So that might mean, hey, I don't really have a feel for it. But you know what? Vegas doesn't really have a feel for it. FanDuel might not really have a feel for it yet. The odds they're setting, well, there's a winner and loser to all these bets, unless it's an even number and you push. But bottom line is, there are ways to make money out there with FanDuel. What are you waiting for? They'll give you great odds. They'll give you great perks. They'll give you those great feature bets and everything that they have, the live same-game parlays, everything that they do to get you all set up. And also with FanDuel, you get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So on top of being America's #1 sportsbook, they're going to give you $200 when you place your first $5 bet. That, to me, is a no-brainer. And I don't know what you're waiting for. So one more time, I'll just tell you how to find them. Go to the App Store, download the FanDuel app or Google Play Store, whatever one you use. Or you can also go to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. All right, let's get into a conversation about the Zack Wheeler Cy Young thing because the Phillies have started the Cy Young media tour or I guess I should say social media tour for Zack Wheeler. They've been putting out the end of year statistics and comparing him to Chris Sale and everything like that. And this really would not be a conversation today if Chris Sale was not scratched with back spasms from a win or your going home game in a doubleheader with the Mets. That game's currently ongoing right now. If the Braves lose, the Diamondbacks are in the postseason. So they will be sent home. And Chris Sale was not able to throw with the team's season on the line. And who knows if he can throw in the NL wildcard series if they do find themselves in the postseason. But this is a regular season award, so the wildcard series does not affect it. But that is why we're having this conversation, because yesterday, Zack Wheeler was like plus 1,200, I believe he was on FanDuel, to win the National League Cy Young. Well, the award, it might be a little bit more up in the air today with Chris Sale missing a big-time start. I'm just going to run through this graphic that the Philadelphia Phillies put out and give you my thoughts on everything. The overall numbers, he had 200 innings pitched with a 2.57 ERA. That's insane, guys. In modern baseball, a sub-3 ERA over 100 innings is something where you go, ooh, that guy might be good. A sub-2.6 ERA in 200 innings, that's just unbelievable. He is so underrated. Even the love he's gotten this year is not enough love. I mean, he struck out 224 batters this year. Listen to where some of these stats rank, right? He has the best whip in the National League, .96. He allowed less than a base runner an inning over in the entirety of the season, 200 innings. Incredible. 26 quality starts. Hell yeah. Like, that's just, I don't have anything more to say than that. That's going out and giving you everything you need day in and day out. That's also first in the National League. The opposing batting average, highest, lowest in the National League for any qualified starter. On base percentage, lowest in the National League for any qualified starter. On base plus slugging, lowest in the National League. So it's not like he's just not giving up hits. He's not giving up extra base hits. He's not giving up anything. He's absolutely amazing. He's thrown a lot of innings. He's thrown significantly more innings than Chris Sale. 22 and a third innings more than Sale, who is the Cy Young favorite. And Chris Sale I'll tell you right now, I hate to say this. I do, because I'm a Phillies fan. I'm a Wheeler fan. I want him to win it really bad. I think he's been the best pitcher in the National League this year. For my money, if I had a vote, it would be Zachary Wheeler, Philadelphia Phillies, greatest pitcher in the National League this season. Unfortunately, I don't get a vote. And even if I did, it would be one vote. And I think Chris Sale. I almost said Chris Wheeler. I keep wanting to go Wheels, Chris Wheeler, combine their names. I think Chris Sale is going to, unfortunately, still win the Cy Young just because he's been so darn good this year down there in Atlanta. But, hey, let's have the conversation. If you've got a team that has gone to the postseason versus a team that has not made it, a pitcher that has pitched in big starts for the Philadelphia Phillies versus a pitcher that went out with an injury when his team needed him most. It's like Avatar: The Last Airbender, if you ever watched that. When the world needed him most, he vanished. When the Braves needed Chris Sale most, he vanished. Are you willing to give that guy the Cy Young Award? Also, I mean, now Chris Sale has not, surprisingly, won a Cy Young Award yet in his career. So there have been some people that make the argument, oh, Chris Sale has been more recognized as a pitcher, give it to Zack Wheeler. Neither of these guys have ever won it, which is criminal. So it'll be nice to see, just as a baseball fan, it'll be really nice to see one of these guys get recognized. But I think it should be Zack Wheeler. And also, how great would it be if when you give Zack Wheeler his contract extension and lock him down here in Philadelphia for the next couple of years, like the first year after you do that, he rewards you with a Cy Young caliber season. And he already has, because this is a Cy Young caliber season, whether he wins the award or not. But that would be awesome to see the hardware. And it would be really great to see, like, we haven't seen a Cy Young in this city since Roy Halladay. And it's been, 13 years? Last time you won the division was the last time you had a Cy Young. Was it 2011 or it might have been 2010? Either way, it was 13 or 14 years from this date. Not this date specifically, but this year, when you had your last Cy Young winner. You had an MVP in Bryce Harper a couple years ago. Hey, why don't we knock that Cy Young drought off? That would be really, really cool to see. Now, Wheeler's done throwing for the season, so he can't add to any of these numbers. But some other things that Wheeler has done really well, and the Phillies, you should check out this graphic. You can go to their Twitter and read a little bit deeper into it. But Zack Wheeler, he made 9 starts this season against the Dodgers, Brewers, Diamondbacks, Mets, and Braves. So those are all teams that are in playoff contention or in the postseason already. He had a 1.55 ERA and a .88 whip with 63 strikeouts against those teams. Only 8 walks. He's been really, really good. Sale, meanwhile, 2.44 ERA, which is still bonkers. But he was looking at a 1.16 whip and 66 strikeouts. Zack Wheeler was better against the best. And in the division, Zack Wheeler was unbelievable as well. He went 4-2 with a 2.6 ERA in division, and he looked really, really good against the NL East opponents, where Chris Sale, well, he had a 3.48 ERA in division and a 1.04 whip to Wheeler's .93 whip. I don't know. I see all these numbers and I say, when it matters most, Zack Wheeler's the better pitcher. So what do you value in the Cy Young conversation? Do you value compilation of stats? Well, Wheeler's throwing more innings. Do you value clutch performance? Well, Wheeler's throwing better against better teams. Do you value and all of that is kind of moot point, because it looks like Chris Sale's going to have the best ERA and whip and strikeouts in the National League. So he's going to win the National League Triple Crown for pitchers. Or sorry, it's whip. Wins, strikeouts, and ERA. And that's just like, that's a hard thing to compete with. But are those stat compilations all that matters? Or do you look at the nuance behind it? I'm asking the voters to consider Zack Wheeler, and not just consider. He deserves the award, in my opinion. And I would not say that if I didn't truly believe that. Maybe there's a little bit of homerism in there, but I read you the numbers, folks. And credit to Chris Sale if he wins it. Like he's fully deserving as well. But I think there may be, like, of the 100% that makes up both of these pitchers, 1% more might be deserving for Zack Wheeler. Just my case for the Cy Young trophy to come back here to Philadelphia and go to Mr. Wheeler. But Wheeler's going to be in the postseason. We don't know if the Braves are. So as we get into our next segment, which is going to be our what to watch for this week type of segment, something you should watch for tonight is who finds their way into the postseason. We'll discuss the game currently ongoing and how that's going to close out the playoff seeding in the National League and in baseball, and then what you want to watch for the wild card series as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. All right, let me tell you about our friends over at Game Time. They're the absolute best, and you need tickets to Red October. I know you do. There is no way that you cannot be in the building. Like, have you been to Citizens Bank Park in October with this team? It's going to be amazing on Saturday. You don't want to miss it, but it's going to be hard to get tickets. I know where you can go. I know the best place to go. Game Time. Go ahead and check it out. Game Time has everything you need to be assured that you're going to have the best Red October experience. They got Game Time picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Now, I will tell you this. With Red October, every deal is a great deal, dog. Being in that stadium is going to be amazing, so whatever you can get done, great. But Game Time's going to make sure that you know what you're doing and how you're getting these tickets. They give you views from your seat. So you know when Bryce Harper hits that first big home run of the postseason, you're going to have a good look at it. They give you the lowest price guarantee, which means if you find seats in the same row and section for less, you're going to get 110% of the difference. That's great because you know how expensive Red October tickets can be. They also have Game Time ticket coverage, meaning your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. And hey, all-in pricing, isn't that nice? You get to see all the fees and stuff up front. Not that there's many, because Game Time cuts down on those for you, but you don't get hammered with them at the end and surprised last second. So go ahead and check out Game Time. There's no better way to get into Red October. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, folks, what to watch for this week. Now, I'm going to pull this up. I read this article earlier, and I remember a couple of the spots, but I'm going to be reading you off some MLB playoff game times. It's that time of year. How crazy is it that we're already here? And we're already looking at a situation where the postseason, the game times, this stuff has been largely announced, what days games will be, what games you should be watching. So this is from officially MLB.com, and we have pretty much everything besides the Mets and the Braves dragging their feet, needing that doubleheader because of Hurricane Helene. They're playing it today. So if you're watching this episode early, as soon as I post it and you go, hey, Braves and Mets are still playing, go ahead and chuck that on. That's something you're going to need to watch because that's going to be one of the teams in that could very possibly be a team that you see in the NLDS. They could be on your side of the bracket. Now, the Braves are not going to, well, we don't know who's going to be the 5 seed. They could still be the 5 seed. The Mets could be the 6 seed if the Braves find a way, but if they lose, they could be out, and it could be the Diamondbacks in the 6 and the Mets in the 5. We don't know. We don't know what's going on, folks. Everything's crazy right now. So I'll just give you the TBD for those games. But on Tuesday, which is, I believe, that's tomorrow. We have postseason baseball, folks. Tomorrow, it's going to be awesome. So you have Detroit taking on Houston at 2:32 p.m. These times, they're important. Trust me. That's the first American League wildcard game. Then you have AL wildcard game 2, 4:08 p.m. between Kansas City and the Baltimore Orioles. Then We're figuring out whoever the 5 seed or 6 seed is. But whoever the 6 seed is will play the Milwaukee Brewers at 5:32 p.m. tomorrow. And then the late night game at 8:38 p.m., which will be hosted by the San Diego Padres. That's why they get the late one, the West Coast team. Will take on whoever the 5 seed is. The Phillies are going to play the winner of the Brewers and whoever becomes the 6 seed. So that's a good deal for the Philadelphia Phillies, because it's funny how baseball does their postseason bracket. The 6 seed the Dodgers should get to play the lowest seed that comes out, but they don't reseed. And because there's a division winner in the wild card series in the Milwaukee Brewers, they set it up so that the 2 seed could potentially play the 3 seed, because that would be fair, right? You wouldn't want the 1 seed to play the 3. But what if Milwaukee loses? You're playing the last team in? That's a pretty darn good setup to be number 2 in the Philadelphia Phillies case. So something to keep an eye on. But why those game times are important, again, the 4 start times for tomorrow's games: 2:32, 4:08, 5:32, and 8:38. Oh, and those times are echoed on Wednesday and on Thursday. Well, almost on Thursday. They pushed the third game back to 7:38 on Wednesday and 7:08 on Thursday. But the first 2 are the same. It's because the Philadelphia Phillies, well, they're going to be playing on Saturday, and the time has not been announced. But it seems that the time slots that these games are going to go off on, 2:32 or around 2:30, around 4 or 4:30, around between 5:30 and 7:30, and then also that 8:30 to 9:30 slot potentially will be the later games. It could change on the weekends because you can go a little bit later than that. But that's something to keep an eye on. The guess is that the West Coast game with the Dodgers hosting game 1 of the NLDS on Saturday as well would be the latest game. So they'll get the 8:30 slot. And then the Phillies could be the 7 o'clock game, or they could be the 4 or 5 o'clock game. We'll see. But I would expect Red October for the Philadelphia Phillies to begin Saturday between the hours of 3 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. That would be my assumed game time. Just narrow it down a little bit for you. I'm taking a guess. I'm reading tea leaves here. There's nothing announced yet. The series that you want to watch, obviously you want to watch the Brewers take on whoever the 6 seed is. So those are Tuesday, 5:32, Wednesday, 7:38, and if necessary, Thursday, 8:38. They have the late game, which is nice because then they're going to have to do a quick turnaround with 1 day off and say, hey, let's get ready to go face the Philadelphia Phillies, whoever finds their way. Also, you never know. Game gets rained out. Stuff gets pushed back. I'm not rooting for teams to take longer because I want the Phillies to play as quickly as possible. I don't want them to get rusty, but it could be a situation where it takes away an off day if there's any weather involved. We see that currently going on with the Braves Mets. Outside of the series that you're going to be playing the winner of, the other games that you want to watch, obviously the hierarchy of games goes. The next highest is San Diego and whoever they play as the 5 seed, because the winner of that series is going to try and take out the Dodgers for you and assure that if you win your NLDS series, you've got home field the rest of the way. San Diego has been really, really good lately. We'll see how they do, but those games are obviously also Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like all these wild card games are. Of the American League matchups, I don't know which one I'm more intrigued in. I'm really not. I'll tell you which one I'm more intrigued in. Shout out to Locked On Tigers. The Tigers story is incredible, and now they're going to take on the Houston Astros after one of the great playoff pushes we've seen in recent memory. I'm rooting for the Tigers a little bit over there. Matt Vierling, Nick Maton, guys that used to be Phillies that were beloved on this team and in the clubhouse. They're there making a playoff push and then finding their way in, and now they get 3 games to prove that they belong here. Let's go Detroit. Find a way to get that done. I guess the least interesting one, which is crazy to say, but the least interesting to me is Kansas City, Baltimore, which is still a great series. There's going to be some awesome baseball this week. Baltimore a little banged up, but we know the young talent. Kansas City, kind of a surprise team this year with how well they played. Not that they're good, but how good they were. And Bobby Witt Jr. is an all-world talent who kind of gets lost in the Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani kind of shuffle of great superstar seasons this year. Bobby Witt's as good as anybody in baseball, dude. So there's some really, really strong games this week. That's what I'm going to be keeping my eye on, of course, as the Phillies put their feet up, or do they? We'll discuss in tomorrow's episode what they're going to do. But as the Phillies proverbially put their feet up and wait their opponents in the National League Divisional Series. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Make sure you check out next Locked On MLB with Sully, Paul Francis Sullivan. Final day of the regular season for Major League Baseball in general, technically with the Mets and Braves still rounding things out. So go ahead and check that out. And Sully does great work on there to tell you the big storylines around baseball. It's available wherever you get your podcasts and also on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, as are we. And please make sure for us, you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. I will talk to you tomorrow on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.